Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Tulsa City Council Public Works Committee meeting. Normally it begins at 2:30, so I want to first and foremost tell everybody that is here for this meeting. Thank you for your patience in waiting and queuing up outside. Want to be mindful and respectful of everybody's time. Number one on the agenda, I call this meeting to order. Number two, license agreement between the City of Tulsa and Board of Regents for the Oklahoma Ag and Mechanical Colleges for property located at 700 North Greenwood Avenue, University Center at Tulsa Addition, to install, use, and maintain 2 walkway canopies and a brick paver walkway within the street right-of-way. City Council District 1. Paul, I was looking for you to come up to the table.
Paul Zachary, Public Works. If you've ever driven in the old University Center of Tulsa area and gone through OSU, you're going to say those 2 canopies and those brick pavers have been there ever since they built that place back in 1994. And what's happened is something came up that involved the betterments that were going to be adversely impacted, and we could not find the license agreement for it. And now that it's an OSU Board of Regents property, there could have been under a University Center at Tulsa at the time, under a different authority. So what we're doing is we're just bringing this back up to date, that these bridges are not a city responsibility. The pavers through there are not a responsibility. If they have tripping hazards by students crossing in there, that's a university issue. That is not a City of Tulsa issue. So we did the search as much as we could, and with the changing of authorities, et cetera, we just thought it'd be easiest to probably just bring it up to date. So the pictures that you see in there, we did send them a letter. We want the proper MUTCD, which is the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. We want the proper signage to meet for things that are going over roadways, for delivery trucks, et cetera. So we're just bringing it in, I'm just gonna say, into the 21st century, and everybody's got institutional knowledge about it now, to where that's, I think, is just what's been lost over the time, and now we have a record of it. So we would ask for your support of this, to clarify duties on maintenance with the Board of Regents and the City of Tulsa. We're all in agreement on this, and we had received no objections at all from any of the groups that we spoke with. So we would ask for your approval with this reinstituting a license agreement that's just not been found in our records. So it's a needed item.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? No? Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 3. Paul, you're still here for that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Change order number 1 to contract number 138068 between the City of Tulsa and Crossland Heavy Contractors Incorporated for project number 2036 N1153Z in the amount of $28,530.45, and adding 120 calendar days necessary for the addition of waterline materials needed for design change, 2-inch air relief valve, 4 total, 6x6 DI cross, blah blah. Sorry, that's a lot of numbers. Fill us in there, Paul.
Okay. What this is we, on our street project, we had a water line. We were gonna have to bore underneath this tree. Well, this tree's root system was damaging the street. It's also damaging the sidewalk, and the tree's health was not of such to just keep it around. So we're removing the tree, but in removing the tree, we've removed the bore, and we're adding in the 2-inch lines, the 2-inch relief valve. We're putting in a 6-inch water line, so we already had that. A 6x6 ductile iron cross for a water line connection with restrained joints on it, and then also 2 additional 6-inch ductile iron plugs. And we're also removing a large portion of the tree. Just to kind of give you an idea, it's around $10,000 to get it completely out and dug out from underneath the street and clearing all the root system. So in doing that, we believe we could have bored under it, but we would have still had tripping issues, the road degradation. So for $28,000, which is 1.3% of the overall contract, we're going to be able to make an improvement. This will outlast the length of the roadway, so in its condition. So we would support this, and the contractor is ready to move as soon as you all move. So we would ask for your approval of this item.
What type of tree was that?
A big one.
I guess that's the genus.
One with deep roots, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, deep roots.
Deep and shallow, and
Right,
spreading and
right.
damaging.
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
Okay,
Counselor Archie?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
It's okay, that's funny.
no, you're
It's all
right.
right.
I have two questions. Where is this project at in District Two?
It's in Maintenance Zone 1153, so it's in Council District 1, I believe.
Oh, because it said two?
Did it say that on the RFA?
It does say two.
Okay.
Well, then, okay.
Okay,
It's
yeah. I was-
Maintenance Zone 1153. It shouldn't, unless it's an old number with it. As you know, our zones change when the council districts get adjusted, so I need to make sure that the old 1153 at the time that this project was voted, it could now be in two. And I'm sorry, I
Sure,
don't
no,
have
I
that
just,
detail.
as I'm driving around, I can see like, oh, that's what that is.
I will get you the exact location and show you
For sure.
where it is.
And then, finally, when you all deal with trees, having to uproot tree things, I know we have an arborist here. Do you consult with the
Yes.
arborist, and what was that?
Exactly, that's what we do with the arborists, and that we have them make the decision on a lot of our trees.
Okay.
When we're working midtown, there's a lot of 36-inch, 48-inch trees that we encountered, but then an arborist comes out, it's got green leaves on it, it looks healthy, he's like, no, in 3 or 4 years, you guys are gonna be out here taking this down. And whenever you bore under a tree and do other things, sometimes you try not to hit roots, you try not to do things like that, but you disturb inside the drip line of a tree of that size. That's why I tell people when we're working and they have a tree die within a couple of years after our job, and they see, we'll go back and take care of that tree. Because you could be doing latent damage to a tree of that size. So, no, we do consult with the arborists. We also have one in our storm folks, as well as one in the Parks Department. And we utilize those guys exclusively to evaluate the trees before we don't want to take down 48-inch, 54-inch diameter trees anywhere. But if they're destroying sidewalks and they're destroying people's driveways and we can't fix it, then we need to take it out.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
It's darn big trees.
Yes.
Counselor Gilbert?
Big trees.
Can you transplant
Not this tree.
it? So your department always has really nice paper when you hand out, so I'm expecting nicer paper with this tree that you're handing out.
This tree will get me my next year's paper. So our FY '27 budget went down because I've got a new tree to make some paper out of. Goodness.
We got to process the tree though.
I like the transplant question.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Do you want it in your front yard?
No, we were gonna put it in
I could
District
tell you a
2.
story where somebody did. We did have a project in Port of Tulsa. They moved it into Midtown. And it died. Yeah, they brought it in on a semi-trailer and tried to flip it up in this guy's front yard. It was pretty comical, but anyhow.
We could make paychecks with the
Trees are
paper.
like turtles. You can't just uproot them and
Exactly.
move them, or
Unless you have a sign.
no, you cannot
Can't
move a
use
turtle.
to Shift them up.
Young trees, yes, big trees.
What if the turtle's moving?
If
And
you
is
can't
in the
relocate
street?
them.
You cannot relocate a turtle.
Just like,
Okay,
like
there
an
we go.
urban coyote, except
I
with
saved the turtle, he was in the streets.
Yeah, and he used a campaign.
He was
sign.
not happy with me.
No turtles
Okay.
will harm in the
Campaign
removal of this tree.
One of the ones he collected.
Thank you, Paul.
We digress.
Yes. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 4, ordinance naming increment district. Were there any further questions, by the way?
No.
Okay. Ordinance
We got
naming
sidetracked.
increment District A in the Pearl District Neighborhood Economic Development Project Plan is increment District number 27. City of Tulsa, and establishing the date of creation thereof, ratifying and confirming the actions, recommendations, and findings of the review committee and the Tulsa Metropolitan Area Planning Commission with regard to increment District A, ratifying and confirming the City of Tulsa's enactment with regard to ordinance number 25641, approving and adopting the Pearl District Neighborhood Economic Development Project Plan, establish the project area and establish increment District A, confirming the designation of the City of Tulsa and the City and the Tulsa Authority for Economic Opportunity as the entities authorized to carry out and administer said project plan, including the tax apportionment fund and the use of increment revenues for payment of project costs. Who do we have? Hi, Mike.
I'm Audrey Black from the Legal Department,
I'm Mike Dickerson with Partner Tulsa.
and in July 2025, you all enacted the ordinance creating the Pearl District Project Plan, which is an ad valorem project plan, and deferred creating the actual TIF district. And now there's a project coming aboard that is, and it's time for the District A to be named and created, and it'll be TIF 27, City of Tulsa.
Do you want to add anything, Mike?
No, Audrey did a great job. You guys recall last year, we had a lot of discussion about these new TIFs. The Pearl project plan was brought forward, adopted, and we deferred the creation until such time as we were ready for catalytic projects to begin generating that increment, and here we are to start the clock on this.
All right, thank you. Counselor Bengel?
Yeah, what catalytic project?
So there is a large multifamily apartment complex that is going in. They've done some clearing of the lands out there, but we also have been in talks with a few townhome developers throughout the district, as well as another potential multifamily project. So right now does seem to be the right time to start activating this.
So these are brand new or?
These would all be brand new.
Okay.
Yeah, it's empty lots.
Okay. Counselor Bellis?
Do you know if it still includes the parking garage aspect?
It does.
Oh, good.
Yes, it
Okay.
does.
Yeah, just maybe to my council colleagues that, you know, the Pearl District has so many empty lots because there's all that floodplain and things like this. So this is the catalytic project that a lot of the TIF is really formed around. And then what's exciting with it, having parking with it, is that we won't repeat that Cherry Street factor where people just kept knocking down houses behind each business to create a parking lot. So this will help us, you kind of more strategically have some good urban planning and design in that area as it grows.
Is the VFW in that area?
It's kind of just like on the edge of that, yeah, it's really proximal.
Is it included
Actually, I think it is in
within
the, it is in the
that?
TIP,
It
isn't
is,
it?
I believe you're
Yeah,
you're
we talked about
correct,
it can
yeah, 'cause
benefit from
it runs down to 11th, and that's
You're
in
right.
St.
Okay,
It
so they're,
benefits-
are they a beneficiary of
They
this?
can be,
They
so
could
we
be.
talked with them about, they could get, yeah, sidewalk improvements, lighting, like, there's a real opportunity here for, better accessibility and walkability to be created.
Yeah, I
in relation-
figured you would know that and whether they were or weren't included
They
in
are.
that TIF.
Yeah, I remember, it took me a minute to remember, but yes, I remember that there was a lot of intentionality in knowing that area
Yeah,
needed to be
because that's a
included.
historical building.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, they would be able to have good access to resources as the TIF starts generating. Yeah, exciting.
Alrighty, any further questions, comments? Alright, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 5. Ordinance adopting the annual assessment roll for Tourism Improvement District Number 1, assessing those parcels of real property within the city limits on which there is located a hotel or motel that has 110 or more rooms for the purpose of providing marketing services as set forth in 11 OS Section 39103.1A, providing the time and method for payment of said assessments.
Oh,
Kidding?
I'm opening up my chips. here.
Oh, it's okay, there's no good way to open a bag of chips like mine.
Just rip it open. Alright, alrighty, welcome to the table.
Jessica White with Finance Department. So the city administers this annual assessment of the Tourism Improvement District. This district includes hotels within Tulsa that have 110 rooms or more. And as part of this program, property owners are assessed 3% of gross revenue each year. Revenue collected through this assessment is used primarily to support marketing and promotional efforts to increase tourism within the city of Tulsa, and to determine the property ownership and room count. And contact information for each hotel, the city relies on Tulsa County Assessor's page.
questions, comments? No? All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 6. Ordinance amending Tulsa Revised Ordinances Title 24 nuisances by adding a new Chapter 6, waiver of costs and fees to promote housing affordability. An ordinance providing for the waiver of nuisance abatement costs and fees under specified conditions to promote affordable housing, providing for the clawback of waived fees and costs if required documentation is not timely submitted, providing for severability. All righty. Right.
Hello,
Welcome to the table.
thank you. We're just getting set up here. Thanks for having me, Travis Hulse with the Housing Office. Wanted to talk about a couple of ordinances. We'll take them one at a time, just so I think they're separate, and there's probably some good conversation to have on each one. So the first one that I'm gonna talk about is proposing an amendment to Title 24, which is the nuisance chapter of our municipal code. This is an item, if you remember back in our days of the 3H task force, we talked about the potential for a policy or a program around municipal liens and forgiving those liens on properties. So this is this is the proposal I want to talk through a little bit today. Overall, the ordinance goals and why we're proposing this really has a lot to do with our hope and intention to increase affordable housing across the city of Tulsa, at the same time reducing vacant, abandoned, and dilapidated properties. Right now, the city has about 1,200 properties with city nuisance abatement liens filed against those properties. Can make it challenging for individuals who are acquiring properties to bring them back onto the market, whether that's a vacant lot or even a vacant structure, similar to what you see on the screen. So the goal is to really take what you have today that is potentially a boarded up home or structure and getting that back into productive use. As I mentioned, this was a part of the 3H task force recommendations, so just highlighting that again. We really didn't have a well-defined policy around how we would evaluate these types of requests. So right now, if somebody wanted to seek a waiver of a city nuisance lien, they would essentially approach you, the council, on a case-by-case basis, and you would evaluate and determine whether or not you would agree to waive those fees associated with those nuisance liens. So what we've hoped to develop is essentially a process and a clear policy that would allow the housing office to administer and review, evaluate, and then potentially release those liens as people come asking how they can do that. So a couple of things that I think are important to kind of go through: the eligibility requirements. So not every property that has a city nuisance lien, from our perspective, should qualify or be eligible for this type of a request. We're really focusing on properties that are both vacant and abandoned, lot or structure. We want to make sure that we're not encouraging individuals who, because of the lack of their care or management of a property, had a nuisance abatement action taken against them, had a lien then filed against their property, and now they are coming to us and saying, we would like you to remove that for X, Y, and Z reasons. So this would really be a program that only applies to property owners who have acquired a property that already had those liens filed against them. We also want to make sure there's not any additional private liens on the property. We want to make sure that if the city is removing our liens, that it will essentially allow that property to move forward with redevelopment and not have other issues that could be tied up. We also want to make sure that this is tied to affordability. So we have provisions that would require the property be leased or sold at an affordable rate. I'll talk about the definition and how we're defining affordable rate for the purposes of this program, and then also that in addition to an affordable rate, that we would have the owner record that affordability restriction on that lot, so that it would remain with the lot, not necessarily with the property owner. So if it changes ownership, it's still in place moving forward. So affordable rate, the way that we've been talking about this, there's a lot of ways I'm sure you can think of how we slice and dice affordability. We talk about that at this table. The way that we've tried to really kind of simplify that is to look at the city of Tulsa as a whole based on the income limits that are released every year from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So for the city of Tulsa, our average household size is 2.3 persons. We would look at establishing a rate that would qualify for households up to 60% of the area median income. So I put those figures on there just to give you a sense of what that would look like. So if I was gonna rent a property that I purchased and then rehabbed and then asked for a lien waiver, I would have to rent that property for no more than $1,188 a month. If I were gonna sell the property, I would be obligated to not sell that property for more than $118,000. So put the math up there and kind of the explanation so you can kind of see how that all calculates. Every year those change, and so every year we would update those numbers to reflect kind of more accurately based on our current area median incomes for the city. But those are current as of June, I want to say June 1 of this year, so just a couple weeks ago those got updated by HUD. Those affordability rates, as I mentioned, there would be restrictions that would be required to be recorded as a covenant with Tulsa County. What we did here is we tried to think about the amounts that would be waived based and kind of use that to determine how long that affordability restriction would have to be placed on the property. So $1,000 or less would be a 3-year term, between $1,000 and $2,500 would be a 5-year, and then anything more than $2,500 in liens would be a 7-year period. There are several properties, and we have a list. Some properties have 1 lien filed against them, some have up to 10. And those can amount to in excess of $10,000 in total. So we did propose to put a cap on that to say that we wouldn't waive more than $10,000. And that kind of is just trying to be, I think, intentional about what we feel like is reasonable for this type of a request and affordability restriction. A little bit of nuance to the restrictions themselves, depending upon the type of housing unit a property owner would be proposing to build. If it was anything less than 3 units, so a single-family home, a duplex, a townhouse, something like that, every single one of those units would have to qualify and meet the affordability restrictions. If they were building something more, 4 units or more, then we would allow them to have a portion of those units not meet the affordability restrictions, if that makes sense. So at least 75% of the dwelling units would have to be restricted at those levels, but then the other 25% they could rent at market rate, essentially. So process-wise, kind of just how I think about it in simple terms. The property is acquired by a new owner with an existing city nuisance lien. They submit an application or a waiver request to the housing office. We review that, determine that it meets all the eligibility requirements that I've described, and that a part of that is that they have shown proof of covenant being recorded with the county. As they submit that to us, we then essentially waive whatever liens are held against that property, and then require that within a 2-year period of time, that home is either sold or leased at those affordability rates. We want to make sure that if we remove those liens, that there's a good faith effort to get that property rented or sold within a certain period of time. We felt like 2 years was reasonable. Given construction timelines, if I'm somebody building a home, probably takes a little bit longer than if I'm rehabbing a home. There's probably not an exact science to what that metric is, but we felt like 2 years was reasonable for that. kind of an ongoing requirement as well, making sure that that affordability continues. We want to make sure, again, on the front end, that they're pursuing in good faith construction rehabilitation, that 2 years, that 2 year period that either that sale or lease is happening. And then on the lease side, oftentimes as renters, change, we get new tenants in a home. We understand that, I think that's reasonable, so there may be a period of time that one of these units is not occupied. We want to make sure that that doesn't exceed, I think, again, what feels reasonable, and so we've placed 180 days as kind of you can have an eligible unit as a part of this program vacant for that period of time, but no more. If any of those things are violated, including an annual self-certification, then that would trigger a clawback to where the city would recover whatever amount of funds were released or waived at that point in time. So that's a lot. I'll stop there. That's the first program I kind of wanted to present to you.
Okay. I have a couple of questions before I take questions from the council. So the time frame of the lien when there's a purchase, what does that look like if a buyer actually purchases a property that has these liens on them and then they request a waiver? What is that time frame for them to request once they take possession of the property?
Yeah, from our perspective, or I guess I should, speaking for Gene and myself, from my perspective, I don't think we're too worried about the time period in which they acquire the property, how long they wait to come to us to request a release of that lien. So we didn't put anything in the ordinance that would require them to come to the city to request that within, 30 days, 6 months, anything like that. So right now, there's not anything that really contemplates a time frame that they would have to come to us and request that.
Okay. I'm just curious if they purchase a property with liens already in place, if they are actually intent on rehabbing it immediately, or if they just hold on to it as a speculative move and then go forward down the line to request waivers. That would be something to think about. And then what I'd like to know is, do we have the data where these 1,200 homes or the districts that predominantly contain these homes?
We do. I don't have it with me, so I'd be speculating from memory, but we do have all the properties. We have addresses, parcel data. We know where they are in the city. We know how many each property has, what number of liens and what the total amounts are for each of those properties as well.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that information on where they're located and within what districts. Yeah, you're in my district. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, and then the vacancies, when you were talking about the amount of time, 180 days, that a particular unit can be vacant, that's a long time. That's really generous in a time frame.
Yeah, I think we're open to suggestions on what that time frame looks like. I agree. I don't know that there's a perfect number that came to mind. I don't want to say it was just made up, because I think we're trying to think about construction timelines, vacancy for renters moving in and out. It seems realistic to me that if I'm a landlord, I would want to have a unit rented much sooner than 180 days. So I don't think that we're applying unnecessary pressure, so to speak, but I don't disagree. I'm not sure what the right number is.
Well, I just think with the housing shortage we're experiencing, that's an awful long time to get somebody housed.
Yeah.
Or leave a property vacant.
I mean,
without that use.
open to thoughts, feedback on what that number, a better number.
Okay, all righty.
Yeah.
Gene, did you?
Sorry, yeah, can I just jump in? Gene
That's
Bomash,
okay.
Senior Advisor to Mayor Nichols on Housing. I think that's intended as like the the world, right? Like, the hope is that it's shorter, but what we didn't wanna get into is, if we set it for 30 days, right? Like, by the time somebody moves out, the landlord might have to come in and do repairs, they may have to lease it, somebody might move out in February, somebody might wanna move in June, right? So we're trying to be a little bit broader than possible, and again, this is after they enter a lease, so the hope is that this ordinance will trigger more activity and get more of these vacant properties into productive use, and we're trying to be mindful of the administrative work that's necessary, and so I think personally, I'd rather go a little bit longer and avoid having people come in and panic of, requesting extensions or us having to claw back these liens. So that's kind of my
Yeah, that's good.
feedback on that.
I appreciate that. Counselor Ballas?
Yeah, hold on, I have wonky constituents, and so I had one, I'm just gonna read what their question was, cause it was a good one, it raised this question for me related to the eligibility criteria.
Okay.
So they mentioned that they were a little concerned that the code enforcement lien release affordability requirement may be too narrow, and we may wanna look at, since it uses average household size for all instances versus adjusting, household size persons per household size, or like they were like talking about how the way it's framed right now would limit the use of the program for larger 3-bedroom plus properties if we weren't taking into account some of these other factors related to what's in the HUD AMI limits draft ordinance language references. This may make more sense to you than me, but I just wanted to.
I'm trying to get there.
Yeah, they were like, sorry, this is super technical, but maybe they framed an easy fix, might be saying something along the lines of citywide average household size as adjusted by persons per household, and then let the clause about rate calculation by mayor designee prevail and assume Gene or Travis gets it right. That was their note. This is
Thank
something-
you.
Wow.
I know,
Okay, good luck with that.
No. But no, I appreciated where they were saying that there may be like an unintended consequence of not having this be able to apply to some larger multi-bedroom homes, basically,
Okay.
inadvertently. I think it could be a follow-up thing. Again,
Yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
I even fully understand, but I thought it was potentially a good point. I know we have some breathing space because this isn't actually
Right.
on the table fully.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll send you the language they
Okay.
sent me.
Yeah, no, please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we really tried, like if you, and I'm sure you have, if you look at the HUD
Yeah.
table, it's quite extensive, right? And so we did try to simplify it by essentially pinpointing that average household
Right.
size, just to give us like a single number.
Right, because I know otherwise then you are looking at, I know, I know doing like all this eligibility criteria being like, if it's this much income per household
Right.
size, I know that creates a complex
Yeah.
matrix.
Yeah,
So I understand you all have to balance
yeah,
that. I guess this could also be something where there's always like more immediate implementation, and then if it does look like, and if there's a way to track if certain households aren't being able to access the resource, being able to revisit as
yeah,
well.
definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty, Counselor Archie.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. I have two questions. With the qualified affordability restrictions, do you think this program appeals to developers? Like the amount of money that, if you're a developer looking, if I want to do a new build versus do this program, is there enough profit that your average developer would say, I'm gonna go with this program instead of developing somewhere else? Or how did you all come to that determination?
Yeah. Well, I don't wanna speak for the development community. We did sit down with representatives from HBA, Greater Tulsa Association of Realtors, and Tulsa Realtors to kind of let them give us that feedback. So we had them review both this ordinance and then the one that I'll talk about next, and generally seemed very supportive. I think people recognize that it's not gonna be a program that necessarily applies to everyone in every situation, but this is certainly another tool that could help. So we didn't really get to the nitty-gritty of, the specific dollar amounts and asking the affordability question, right? But yes, I think that they seem to feel good about what we were proposing and kind of the income limits and what that would hit. I don't know.
Yeah, I would add, I agree with all of that, but I would also add that every year when the county tax sale comes around, which is just 2 weeks ago, I think a lot of people in this building get phone calls and emails and requests from developers on, oh my gosh, my property is, or owners, my property is up for tax sale, how do I fix it? And so I think there is a need out there, and the hope here is that we are standardizing that, so that if somebody calls me, they don't get one answer, and somebody calls Travis or anybody else in this building, they get a different answer. So we're trying to make it consistent, so that everybody gets the same opportunity and response.
Okay, that's helpful. And last question, because I see James is in the room as well, James Wagner. How does this program overlap or dovetail with the VIP program? Because that has to do with the forgiveness of liens as well for those who want to buy. How do those two things interact?
I'll start, and James can certainly supplement or correct. I think there are two options, two tools that we're trying to use to attack the same problem, if you will. To me, this is where there's a active participant. So this ordinance that we just talked about requires the property to change hands from when the lien was incurred and that person to come to us. So this is somebody who wants to improve the property. The vacancy improvement program is more intended for folks who are not cooperative. Either they're not in town, they're not paying attention, they don't know what's going on, they don't care. So that is a different situation where we are trying to come up with another tool that, okay, if nobody is paying attention and we're just continuing to increase these liens, the city has an opportunity to force a change of ownership.
So in the VIP program, the purchaser of that property would not owe the liens when they buy it? Or could they come to us to request the forgiveness of the lien?
So yes, these two could go together. The
Right.
vacancy improvement program would trigger a change of ownership, hopefully.
Yeah.
If this gets approved, that person could then qualify for this program.
Okay.
So again, it would be another tool that we are trying to change ownership and incentivize the new owner to do something positive as opposed to just, well, okay, now I've owned it and now I'm just gonna sit on it and let the liens continue to increase.
Okay, great. Good.
And just a sneak preview, the third one, the next one which Travis is gonna talk to about in a minute, could be layered on top of those two.
All right.
Sneak peek.
Yeah, let's get through this particular subject first. Counselor Hall Harper?
Yeah, so to follow up what he, Counselor was saying, when the property transfers, part of the purchase, aren't they paying the lien then? Right?
Possibly, it depends on how the property is transferred. So in a
If it's-
typical sale, if somebody is buying, like if I'm buying a house, I will typically sign a contract with the seller, we'll go to a title company, the title company will search the public records and say, okay, Gene, here's what you're buying subject to, there's a mortgage, there's a lien, my purchase price will say, okay, all those get paid off, so I get clean title. A lot of these vacant properties or these dilapidated properties, people are buying either at the tax sale, so
Yeah, at the
that
tax sale they
is
do.
buying as is, that tax sale, you buy subject to liens, I believe.
I thought you had to pay the liens in order to purchase at a tax sale. Oftentimes,
I
that's
don't
the
think
cost
all
of the
of the
property.
liens are covered by that, but also there are just quitclaim deeds where a developer will go to a property owner and say, I see you're not maintaining this property, I'd like to buy it, and they're not doing that due diligence, or they're not paying enough to cover those liens. So there are certain circumstances, situations, where the lien property transfer is subject to the liens.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I think I've known people that have purchased properties on the tax sale, auction, and that was the cost of the property. The cost, the fees of the liens that were
Yeah,
owed.
that's
Yeah.
And that's how they acquired it.
I think that's
Right?
right, but I think that sometimes it doesn't happen, like,
Sometimes-
I've heard of
okay.
people
It
who buy it
depends,
at
I
tax
guess.
liens with these liens still on it, so I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
It depends on the bid. Like,
Huh?
I think it depends
Yeah.
on the
Because
bid,
sometimes
like
they're
who.
auctioned and bid, yeah.
Yeah, like
Okay.
if it doesn't cover the full
Amount.
amount.
Okay, you said we are capping this at 10,000.
Yeah.
What is, of the 1,200 properties that we know of, what is the average amount?
I'm glad you asked that.
Sounds like a lot of money.
So, 1,200 properties with liens, there's about 36% of those, so about 400-ish properties are less than $1,000 in liens. most of those are just one lien. And then that next kind of grouping, 1,000 to 2,500, there's about another 490 properties, about 40%, in that category. The 2,500 and plus is about 308 properties, which is like 24%. So about 75%, so 3/4 of all of the properties that we're talking about here, 900-ish properties are $2,500 and less.
So there's very few that are up towards that 10,000.
Yeah,
And those are multiple properties.
yeah, yeah, or multiple liens on a single property.
Mm.
Yeah, there's some that have 10, 12 liens just on one property. Yeah,
They're
I
allowed?
don't know. No, there's not.
I was talking about the owner.
Half a dozen.
Yeah.
Oh, are they alive? Sorry, I thought you said, is there a lot?
Yeah, I mean,
Gotcha.
to get up to $10,000, you have to be doing a lot of ignoring.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, sure.
Of
A lot of neglect.
Okay,
All right.
yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Counselor Bagel?
Yeah, so Counselor Harper asked the question, I thought, when you made a sale, right, obviously, I've never been to one of these tax sales, so I figured if you're transferring property or buying property, all the liens that are encumbered within that property are your responsibility to clear as part of the transfer of sale. Obviously, that's not the case. The $10,000 cap seemed a bit weird to me, just off of what you just said, Travis, though, about, where you are in the 2,500 scale at the top, so I'm assuming none of these 1,200 units are on the demo, on any kind of demo list, right? And would that be
And
I'm just really trying to
Yeah.
wrap my head around how you came to the 10,000,
Okay.
right? And obviously, this is obviously a good tool, right, to repurpose properties that have fallen into disrepair and neglect. But I really wanna understand that if the 10,000 and making sure that we're not already, incentivizing properties that are already on a demo list, right?
I wouldn't mind that so much, because this process that we're talking about would be far more efficient than demoing the house. Cause demoing the house doesn't solve the problem, it solves some
Right,
problems.
but you've exempted those properties that would potentially be on a demo list from this program.
I don't think so, no,
Yeah,
they,
not
they,
necessarily.
the property on the we're now calling it a dilapidated structures list, by the way. But a property that is on the dilapidated structures list could qualify for this.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't characterize the properties, the 1,200 properties are in that,
Some of the 1,200 properties are on the dilapidated structures list.
okay. What would you say the percentage of those are?
I would guess.
Come
like,
on, James, take a stab
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah. I didn't
James
cross-reference.
can't pass up James coming up.
James
I'm
Rucker,
just curious.
Planning neighborhoods. I don't know how many are on the demo
Is
list,
it a
but,
significant number, or is it like on the lower end?
oh, I would imagine it's not a significant number of the 1,200 properties, but I am certain that there are properties on there that,
Yeah.
on the lien, because, we put a lien on it. If we do a demolition, and the owner doesn't pay for that invoice, we put a lien on the property for the demolition cost.
Right.
So, yeah, some of them could be a lien for the demolition.
Right, I don't want to put you in a perpetual circle of
Right.
having to fix one problem to solve another.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, but even in that case, let's say it's a property where we have performed the demolition, there's a lien on it for $8,000, let's say. And then a new owner inherits that lien, they get it with a quick claim deed, so it's not a clear title.
Right.
But they get the property and they're ready to do something with it. We're saying, well, we will forgive that lien in exchange for, what was it, a 5-year affordability period? For an $8,000 lien forgiveness.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Yep, that's why I was asking the
Yeah.
question. Okay, perfect.
Okay,
That's all I have.
Travis, did you have more to present?
Not on this item,
Okay.
not on this item, yeah.
Any further questions, comments before we move on? No? All right, moving on to item number 7, get to keep y'all at the table.
Okay,
Ordinance amending Tulsa Revised Ordinances, Title 49, Administrative Permit and License Fees, Chapter 3, Building Permit Fees by adding a section 328, Building Permit Fee Adjustment for Affordable Housing, providing for a waiver of fees imposed under Section 301, Building Permit Application Fee, and 302, Building Permit Fee, to promote affordable housing in the city of Tulsa, outlining conditions to qualify for the adjustment, providing for a clawback if conditions are not met, providing for severability.
all right, so this item, is really focused on reducing permit fees if the builder guarantees affordability. Talk through this a little bit. Very similar in terms of eligibility, affordable rates, affordability restrictions, things that we talked about with the last item. So here are a lot of things that sound pretty similar. There are a few nuances that I want to highlight as a part of this. I will say before we really get into the specifics of what's being proposed, the hope here again is that we're trying different tools, trying different things that can really help get us to our eventual goal of building 6,000 affordable housing units by the end of 2028. This is just another thing that previously, to now, isn't really an option, isn't something that people can pursue. And so this is just another thing that we would like to add, I think, to the list of other things we've talked a little bit about already today, the vacancy improvement program, the item that we just covered. We won't talk about pre-approved plans today, but, there's several other things going on. So I won't go through this, similar kind of ordinance goals to the last one, in terms of what we're trying to accomplish from affordable housing. Building permit fees, I think when we talk about building permit fees, we kind of generalize what that means. So what I wanted to do is just kind of illustrate what you pay on a new single-family home versus an accessory dwelling unit. This is kind of a breakdown of fees, and so what I'm talking about today is really focused on the top two, the application fee and then the building permit fee itself. There are several other fees that are collected as a part of a building permit. You can kind of see as what's listed there, what those go to. Overall, what we would be talking about isn't really a specific set dollar amount or a set percentage. It would depend on the type of permit that you are receiving from development services. But this at least gives you a sense. If I'm building a new single-family home, I'm probably paying somewhere around $1,500 in permit fees. The portion that we're talking about potentially reducing is about 58%. For those of you who are checking my math, as you should, that's not exactly right. I redid the math. The dollar amount's right, but it's like 60% is what is being proposed there.
Thank you for the addition.
Yeah. Accessory dwelling units, similarly, as far as the types of permit fees that are paid as a part of an accessory dwelling unit, you can see that it's, quite a bit less in terms of the overall fee that somebody pays for an ADU, about half. So what ultimately would be reduced in those fees isn't quite as much in terms of a percentage or a total amount. But that's just to kind of give you a general sense of what we're talking about specifically with this proposed ordinance. This is where it starts to sound all very familiar, similar to the last item that we kind of talked through. So the idea, again, would be the more you seek to have reduced in your building permit fee from the city of Tulsa, the longer we would expect that unit to be affordable. The limits, the amounts, the time frames are identical. So $1,000 or less, 3 years, and then on up from there. The longest period of time would be 7 years for $2,500 or more. I don't think that you're gonna hit that all too often. We are proposing that this program be limited to housing developments up to 10 units. If you look at building permit fees on a much larger multifamily project, you're getting into the tens and potentially even hundreds of thousands of dollars in permit fees that we would be waiving through a program like this. So we're trying to kind of stay away from that and really focus on, the smaller infill, what we call missing middle, the types of housing that are a part of the pre-approved plans program, but also the type of housing that I think we're really focused on in terms of affordability and, these vacant lots and dilapidated structures. This is really more aligned with that. So that's where some of that thinking and logic comes from. Covenants, the same as far as affordability restrictions, would be based on the number of units that you are proposing and which ones or what percentage of those units would be required to have an affordability restriction as well. So similar to the last one. Process-wise, owner records a covenant essentially telling us that they have established that affordability restriction, submit that proof to us as a part of their building permit application, and then we essentially reduce those fees based upon the type of housing that is being proposed with that permit. Again, we want to see action. Building permits are active for 180 days, so that's, 6 months? What we're proposing, again, kind of goes beyond that time frame, wanting them to make sure that they have time to build the unit, but then given time to sell or lease that unit. So again, we're proposing a 2-year period that from the time that they record that affordability restriction, that they would have to either execute a sale or a qualified lease as a part of that process. Ongoing requirements, again, sound like a broken record, but very similar. Nothing here really changes versus what we just proposed. So I say pretty straightforward just because there's not a lot of difference there. Requiring annual self-certification by the property owner. Failure to do any of these things would trigger a clawback provision as well, similar to the last one. The one, I'll say kind of big difference, but difference to what we're proposing with this ordinance, we do want to set program milestones for this program. Obviously, with the discussions that we have around the budget here at the city, I think it's really important that we're aware of the amount of fees that could potentially be waived through a process like this. Right now, it's kind of a guess as to whether or not people are going to come to us tomorrow and say, hey, I want to participate and take advantage of that. And so what we're proposing to do is put two kind of, whichever one is reached first, the program would be suspended until the next fiscal year. So these are tied to our goals around affordable housing. If either we reach $500,000 in a total amount of fees waived, or we have permitted 2,000 units, whichever one of those happens first, we would essentially suspend the program, and then it would start over again the next year. So thought that was important to put some kind of parameters around what this would allow kind of moving forward, and wanted to tie it to something that made sense. Right now, we're about 1,800 units permitted since, when was that? December 2nd, 2024, towards our 6,000 goal. I think we'll be right at about 2,000 by the end of this year. And so that basically puts us on track then to get to our goal of 6,000 units the end of 2028. We would hopefully shoot to permit 2,000 every year. So that's kind of where that number comes from. I think that's it on this one.
I have a quick question. So when we're talking fiduciary responsibilities, I know that permits, fines, and fees go towards our budget. And so I'm wondering what the return of investment is. Say we get to that number, 500,000. what is the expected return of investment that compensates for those waivers?
Yeah, no specific dollar amounts, but I mean, you think about the amount of time spent from a code enforcement standpoint on those properties, no longer having to monitor, send, contractors out, pay for all that work, whatever other kind of, services, fire department, police department that could, be associated with, vacant and abandoned properties. So I think that plays into it. Also, now you have an active utility paying, account. So those, I think all of that weighs into that. And I don't know if there's others that I'm not thinking about, but.
Yeah, I would add a couple, right, like this is increasing the value of the property, so additional real estate taxes, and
Yeah.
it's presumably turning uninhabited property into inhabited property, so it's creating homes, affordable homes, which I think we all know we need, and it's kind of part of the tool, right, if we're trying to house people and get people off the streets and out of shelters, they need someplace to live, and so this is, I think, fits into that broader purpose of helping the community, give people more options, more types of housing, basic supply demand. The more housing we create, the lower the prices are gonna become, and I think it fits towards a lot of our goals of, functional zero homelessness, increasing housing that's affordable, safety, and, decreased costs and expenses of nuisances and code violations. So I think it's a lot. I think it's a I don't have the data, but I think it's, multiple factors of the fees we're reducing. And that's why we put in this number, so that we're not, opening the floodgates and waiving, $20 billion worth of fees.
Okay, Counselor Paul Harper?
Oh, yes, can you go back a couple of
Sure.
slides, please? Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, you sound, okay, and then back one more.
Oh.
Okay, cause I saw okay, go backward. So it had new and accessory dwelling. This does include rehabs, right?
Uh-huh.
So is rehabs, are you considering rehabs new single family?
If it's creating what we would consider a new unit, then yes. So if right now, that picture I have of a boarded up home,
Okay.
we wouldn't consider that habitable, right? So it's not, but.
So it's new to, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you said new, in my mind, I was thinking of brand new construction.
Right, yeah,
But that's not the case?
no.
It
It would
could-
be included.
It
They
could
are
be both.
included.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brand
and I
new-
think we
okay.
have language.
I just
in
wanted to
there
make sure both of them
Yeah.
were included. When you mentioned in your presentation, records a covenant,
Uh-huh.
what is that? What does that look like? How do you record a covenant?
So, yeah, Caroline.
Who are you talking to?
Caroline.
Oh, I didn't see. I look back, nobody was there. I'm like,
You don't see
Yeah.
Caroline?
I do now.
Caroline was
When I
the
turned
attorney.
around, she'd already moved, so.
So the covenant would be a document, it would be in the public record, in the land record, so anyone could see it, any, potential buyer would be responsible for seeing it.
Yeah, I know what a covenant is.
Okay, and
but-
it would be detailed, so it would have a lot of information from this ordinance, like these are the affordability restrictions, this is how long it's gonna last,
So it's gonna be on the public record, not a document that's just between the property owner or developer and the city of Tulsa.
Correct.
right, it would be.
It will be in the
public
covenant just like restricted covenants.
Correct.
Yeah, it would be out there,
Yeah, I
you
know where
could
to
pull it
look.
up online, you could go to the county, so that would, hopefully keep everyone abiding by the rules set by the ordinance.
Okay.
Alrighty, is that it? Are you finished?
No, I'm finished, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Counselor Lincoln?
The 500,000, up to 500,000 has been budgeted, like, are we considering the possibility of not receiving that 500,000 bucks? Or,
I think the answer is the budget is based on expectations. We have no idea how many people are gonna apply for building permits. So
Yeah.
it is not like exact, right? The budget on the development services side, and Michael or Danette can answer that, but it's a budget presumably based on how much permit fees we received last year. So, no, it's not technically a line item in the budget, But again, that's why we put a number in there, so that we're not.
I just didn't know if the assumption was that we would use, if we would just end up receiving $500,000 less because of this program.
Right.
No,
Or
we don't know how
$400,000
much,
less, or-
this is just a cap of, we'll pause the program if we get that number, but I'd be thrilled if we get that number and we're having that conversation, because again, that would mean we've had all these properties come online and all this
Yeah.
housing and all this development, so it's a backstop essentially, I don't think it's been
Oh,
budgeted.
no, I'm glad the backstop's there, I just didn't know what budget consideration was there, and I agree that there will be quantifiable benefits to it, it won't be in the same fiscal year. So we'll see some benefits, we'll see some growth in revenue from other sources. So it'll offset eventually, it just won't be immediate. Okay.
Alrighty. Counselor Archie.
Yes. Can you go back to the affordability guidelines, like the 3-year, 5-year? Yeah, I think, well, you were there. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
No,
That wasn't me.
there we go.
It was our friend Carol.
No, just turn it back on me. Okay, so, so let's say I'm a renter, and does the owner, are they gonna notify the renter for the next 3 years, your rent's gonna be like this, but in that 4th year, we're gonna go like this? You know what I'm saying? I wonder if, you know, we keep our, empowerment center, or, whoever moves into these homes needs to know that maybe this 3 years is a runway to, you know, this affordability is only for, it's temporary. And so I wonder how we can make something in that at least notifies them of that, because if you can barely afford, or if 1,000 is a third of your income, then once we get to the end of 3 years, it's gonna jump up to, you know, even more. And so how do we help give people at least a runway, or?
Is there a way of capping that increase up to?
Or not
10
even that,
years
but
or
just like
something
if
that,
you
that it
can
couldn't
retool
go
or get
above.
Property Rights Act of
a new
2014.
job?
Yeah, I would say right now on the market,
Prevent the
there's
city
something
from
preventing
doing
that, right?
anything.
Like right now, if I sign a lease, a year from now, my landlord could jack my rent tenfold and I have no protections. So I don't know that we have the ability, like, to, and I also, again, wanna be mindful of the administrative burden of compliance and monitoring this. I would think it could be something that we could require the landlord to notify the
Right,
tenant,
just a
of this rent is restricted for X period of time, after that it could go up.
Mhm.
I don't know that we wanna
At the
stick our
least,
fingers
yeah.
too far into that relationship personally, but I think that could be something that we add to the process. I don't think that would be required in the ordinance language, but I think as we like develop the program guidelines, we could add to the self-certification that the landlord will notify the tenant, the tenant during the affordability period that for this period of time, the rent is restricted.
Well, that's good. I think at the very least do that. Yeah, once you start sort of meddling more with that, it becomes complicated, but at least let them know. Let them know it's
That's a good point.
temporary.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Counselor Bellis.
Yeah, this question might be moot, but I was just curious how potentially the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, which I know the president just decided not to sign today, but maybe if it gets signed or moves forward, it has so many kind of these programs and pieces under it. I was just curious how, if any of those things come to fruition, how that might factor into this, or if there's maybe gonna be even potentially, I know, dollars that would support this.
I have a
in my
very easy answer. I don't know.
Okay.
We have not, I've not studied the
Okay.
new federal bill to know.
Okay.
So I think we would have to look at that, and I don't know even when it would, assuming it was signed today, I don't know when it would become effective. So I think
Yeah,
we will
yeah,
implement
not even
this,
signed,
we'll
yeah.
consider that, and we always have the
Fair.
ability to come back to you to amend
Yeah.
or revoke this ordinance.
Okay,
That's
I'm
the easy
like
answer.
naming to my colleagues at least as well that, given that it was a bipartisan bill and maybe will take shape in some form soon, it has a lot of seeming opportunities in it that we could seize on the local level, including financial or policy reform, so just kind of putting that all on our horizon out of cautious optimism.
Okay, Counselor Archie?
Just very quickly, I know, and I'm trying to like reconcile this in the VIP program, there's conversations about perhaps grant funds toward developers in that program. I wonder if some of those grant funds couldn't extend the affordability, or I'm maybe just thinking out loud. I would like to see, with these two programs together, how much potentially in subsidy or, benefit or help a potential developer could get, and, which is great, but also, is there a way to pass some of that along to renters who would benefit from affordability? Does that make sense? Okay, Gina.
Yeah, I think separate conversations, IoT three, can go towards rehab and repair and or new construction. Any dollars would have a similar affordability requirement. Our friends at Tulsa Housing Impact Fund would manage the compliance, so not city staff. And yeah, they are similar programs with similar goals, and they could all be stacked. A developer could use one of these programs and get money from THIF. I think those affordability requirements would then stack, so if they're getting, if they're borrowing money, if they're using one program which requires a 3-year affordability and then using another program which requires a 5-year affordability, it would be an 8-year affordability.
Okay.
So yes, I think, yes,
Okay.
that'd be my answer.
Alrighty, let's move on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And get HRC to the table. Item number 8, discussion with members from the Human Rights Commission regarding authorities, boards, and commissions composition by council district. I appreciate your patience, everybody. Just a second. There you go.
Do I? No, I don't.
Welcome to the table, and thank you so much for your patience.
Okay, thank you for making time for the Human Rights Commission. We know that you've been extra busy this time of year, and it's been a long day, I'm sure. So, I'm Drew France. I took over as chair of the Human Rights Commission in January, where I'm now leading the advancement of 2 primary goals. One is to modernize the human rights complaint filing process, and the second is to better align representation on city authority boards and commissions with the composition of Tulsa. Today, we're here only to talk about the second goal, and we'll do that by using data as a mirror to consider whether there's opportunity to better reflect who sits on an authority board or commission compared to who lives across our city. We decided early on to start an inquiry and to start this conversation by considering geography, by which I mean by asking, do Tulsans that serve on an authority board or commission live evenly throughout the community, or might they be more likely to live in certain parts of town? What we gathered was merely a snapshot in time. It's an imperfect picture of a moving target. The data captures where people lived at the time of application, or perhaps the last time they updated their address on file. It doesn't account for those that started a term since February or ended a term since February. But the available data is still very clear and compelling, and it's worth discussing. We acknowledge that there are a number of important ways to consider representation by age, by race and ethnicity, by gender, by income, by language, by disability status, by identity, and so on. And we concede that considering geography, where people live, is important, but it may not be more important than other forms of representation. And it certainly isn't more important than ensuring that qualified and passionate people that care about our city are being appointed, which should be the goal among all of us. We can go to the first slide here, and we'll turn it over here to you. I'll end by saying that we believe that civic engagement and representation are a collective responsibility. We are not here with all the answers. We're only here with a couple of suggested partial solutions. We're merely presenting our findings to facilitate further discussion and ideally partner with City Council with a focus on upstream opportunities to better recruit and entice more Tulsans citywide to apply for an authority board or commission. My colleague will walk you through our data, and we welcome questions at the end of our presentation.
Thank you so much. My name's Patty Zampilevar. I serve on the Human Rights Commission and have been the data nerd who has happily been stewarding this process. And from the data we pulled in February 2026, the headline is pretty clear that current ABC demographics don't reflect the broader Tulsa community. We looked at anonymized data for the 310 members that included demographic data. We also got a list that included names and which seat they were on, so we could look a little more closely at who's occupying which seat, when their tenure started, and if they're still in seat, to look at a variety of factors. And we also looked at markers beside city council. We know that we have our Title V commissions who represent racial groups, we have different interest committees on the Human Rights Commission, and just like we're bringing you all city council data today, we're trying to bring those data sets to the community that knows the most about them first. So we're excited to start with you all in city council districts. The thing I've learned the most throughout this process is that a lot of different people touch this process and can influence it. And Commissioner France and I both work in education, so we're familiar with the temptation to see hard data and want to point at all the different causes that might influence it. And our ask today is, there's a lot about this that you all don't control, but we're bringing you the bite of the elephant that we think that you and the HRC and other commissioners are best positioned to take a bite out of, and we're excited to explore it with you. So, on city council, when we looked at the district, we found that districts 4 and 9 are overrepresented, with more than half of ABC members being from those two districts. The cities, or the city council districts that had the greatest disparities were District 3, District 5, and District 6, with District 7 not far behind. And one thing I want to clarify is that there are some seats that are occupied, or some people who occupy more than one seat. For example, I am a Title V liaison on the Human Rights Commission, and I'm on a Title V commission. Many of you, I found, are on multiple commissions, so this represents the percent of seats and which districts they're represented by. It only really impacts about 10-ish% of seats that have duplicate people, so that's just something good to know, that it's not a ton of them that are subject to that. We thought about the ABC appointment pipeline in these 6 stages, which are not like an official city pipeline. They're just how we saw the process as we looked at the different pieces, starting with how community members become aware of ABCs and their purpose, to get recruited, to formally submit an application to the mayor's office, for seats to become open in the mayor's office to make an appointment, and then the part where you all come in, being able to hear those appointments and confirm them or not. And then our city staff wonderfully takes on the onboarding and service portion. There are a lot of different people, like I said, who touch this process. We know the auditor's office right now is looking more at the later stage of the pipeline into how we onboard and bring commissioners into service. What we determined is that we're really best positioned as the HRC to thought partner with you all around recruitment and applications, because it is really the biggest gap we've heard as commissioners in our own experience, that people don't quite know what we do, why we do it, or when we do it, and we want to partner with you all to improve that. There's a lot of indication that progress is possible here. So when you look at the city council data, over half coming from 2 districts seems pretty stark, but I wanted to share some data points that give me some hope that this is a movable number. The first is that tenure on ABCs is relatively fresh. Mayor Nichols' staff has worked really hard to recruit for open seats and make sure that they're expanding who they're recruiting for. And we've seen that 24% of seats have a new member since Mayor Nichols' tenure began, and 62% of all seats have turned over to someone new in the last 5 years, which is a healthy amount of turnover to make sure we're getting new people in seats. One wondering we had is, are there too many seats that are restricted, maybe by industry or city council district, that make it hard to get diverse candidates in place? And what we found is, at least from one snapshot in time in May, there were 27 seats open, and only 12 of those had an organization affiliation or an industry restriction, and only 2 of those 12 seats had a city council restriction. So there were quite a few seats where, you know, not anyone, but any qualified citizen who had the will and the interest could have stepped into those seats. And in terms of outreach, we know that for Title V commissions, which is where a large portion of, you know, a community member like me who has no special industry affiliation can come into our ABCs. We're going on July 21st to recruit at the Tulsa Young Professionals Pub Club, and there are many initiatives like that already happening where we're going into the community. What I know is that Tulsa is small, but it's not so small that any one of us is going to reach every corner of it, so we know we have to get creative about how we reach new pockets of Tulsans, and I will pass it back to Commissioner France to outline some of our ideas.
Yeah. Well, do you want to jump question here? Or
Oh, no, I'm just getting in the queue for
Okay,
my next
feedback.
job.
We'll wrap it up here with some
No, you're good.
low-hanging fruit. The Human Rights Commission is in the process of empowering other Title V commissions with demographic data that's specific to their respective communities so that they can help design and foster community-specific discussions around representation gaps. What I mean by that is the African American Affairs Commission may be having a different conversation from Indian Affairs, Hispanic Affairs, Asian American Affairs, and the Women's Commission. They can each design commission-specific strategies to ideally increase recruitment and draw candidates into the pool. We at the Human Rights Commission are also wanting to identify specific neighborhood associations in target areas and trusted community leaders in target areas to really drive our recruitment efforts. And then we're also planning to partner with the city to develop and distribute educational materials that really demystify the process, what it's all about, and how someone in Tulsa can apply to be on an ABC. Then lastly, just some ideas for city council where we might be able to partner. We would love to work with you on your town halls or comparable community meetings and help facilitate signups and help you promote authorities, boards, and commissions from the perspective of residents in your districts. We also will listen to you for leads on neighborhood associations that might really be worth our time in your districts and other messengers where you live to which we can target. And then lastly, we would value your recommendation as city council that the city do some work on perhaps creating a lookbook, something that features more accessible descriptions and requirements and suggested skill sets, and really make more digitally accessible what an ABC is and how anyone in Tulsa can apply to be a part of the fund. We'll end there and turn it over to you for questions and discussion, but we appreciate your time.
Alrighty, thank you both for being here and giving us a quick, detailed version here. Councilor Bellis?
Yeah, just as one upfront idea, which I totally agree, I have these moments where constituents express wanting to, that they're interested in serving, but then they don't know how to figure out what commission are they the best fit for. If they apply, what actually is meaningful to have shared. There's just, there's a lot of things there, and obviously I know my district's like highly represented, which I think some of that has to do with proximity to the actual physical building, right? There's a lot there. But one of my other thoughts is, I worked closely with the auditor's office when they were trying to get that evaluate the 918 survey out, where they showed me the heat map of like, we're having trouble reaching these zip codes in communities, like for instance in East Tulsa, and I connected them to nonprofits that served those zip codes to help them get the word out more. Or, like I think like East Side Rise or places like that, like those community hubs, or in Northwest Tulsa, which that's one thing I would reference. If you just look at the districts, I have areas of my district that are highly engaged, that are more towards your Maple Ridge area, and then the Northwest Tulsa area is very much not. So I would be cautious about reducing it by district. But all that said, I think there are ways through looking at some of those really trusted community agencies or faith centers or things like that, where each counselor probably knows what those are in their districts, that could help get the word out or communicate or announce to people, just, about these opportunities. And though I will name one of the other things, though, is making people hyper aware of what the time commitment is as well. I think on the site, it says the number of meetings for a lot of these, but that's not always elucidating about the time commitment, and that can really vary by authority, board, or commission, as well as the qualifications. Like certain commissions require certain experience or skill sets, and other ones, right, lived experience is the most critical thing. So there's just layers of those accessibility things to make more transparent. But I do think some of these core community organizations might be best situated to really kind of educate the public. And then I would name, since could be 18 and up to serve on some of these, I think there's even school-based opportunities to get the word out to young people who want to be more civically engaged. So, thanks for doing this, you all. It's exciting.
I would just like to say I'd like to meet with you all to be able to talk about better incorporation of citizens within my district. So I know that we're all on a time frame. Yes, Councilor Lakins.
Whenever you're done. So I know you're going to talk to Thai pros. What is your strategy on getting older people involved? Do you have one?
I generally found, I'll share the data anecdotally. Our older generations are all overrepresented. Actually, the 20 through 30 age range is 5 times underrepresented in ABCs than they are in the broader city. We had some discussion, do we have a judgment on if we are going to target, we're kind of just going by the numbers right now, is what I was gonna say. So because that.
Is your goal to really have a pie that's well balanced?
I think we're agnostic to that right now,
okay.
but we're looking at like, where's the biggest need first, just to experiment. And I also think maybe our liaison does this regularly with Tulsa Young Professionals, so there's an existing relationship there. So I'm open if you have some ideas on like the best places to get a more
No.
senior professional.
I don't know, the
More
old,
older?
I'm just thinking a lot of our senior adults have more time to dedicate to some of these
That's why
things.
they're overrepresented.
And there's, yeah, well, maybe, but I just don't have enough data, you know, like how long have some of those people who are currently serving been in place, and is it time for term limits and turnover?
Yeah.
And I just find more willingness for those individuals to participate because they don't have the duties of family, they just seem to have more time, like
Yeah.
we're talking about. I communicate with many of them via Facebook, obviously, and not Snapchat or whatever, and Nextdoor.
Yeah.
And they're very interested in city-related things.
Yeah,
So, that and HOAs,
yeah,
but HOAs take a lot of time.
yeah.
And we already have a liaison structure set up, at least through Nextdoor. I don't
Okay.
really know through Facebook.
I think
So-
that strategies around resource design and education are really key here. I mean, I'm thinking in educators' terms, like the tier one, what's the strategy that's gonna reach the most people? And even with a fellow commissioner, I was talking to one of the Title V liaisons, they were sharing their commission's goals, and we were trying to map it to like which other authorities, boards, and commissions would know about evictions, would know about transportation. And even for two people who've sat on these commissions for years, we were having a hard time parsing out like who does what they actually accomplish. So we have been in conversation with the city about kind of the larger existential question of, does every commission have a clear purpose and goal and work area that we can then communicate to the public? There's some work to be done there before, you know, we
Sure.
can standardize that level of education. So that then we can communicate widely, hey, here are the things that are available and what you'll do and what the time commitment is. But I appreciate that push, and it's good to think about what existing liaison structures there are that we can share that information on.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Counselor Bush.
Well, just along those lines, when I've had people that come to me, they don't say, I wanna be on an ABC, because they don't even know that exists. But they wanna be more involved in the community. I know 9 is over, whatever, represented, but I send them to the ABC and I go to your point, do the drop down and figure out where you might wanna plug in.
Yeah,
Cause they're generally just saying, I wanna be more involved.
yeah,
9 times out of 10, the next call is, I don't understand what this one does, even after they do the drop down and read it. So I like your lookbook idea, maybe in more presentable format or something, you know, where it can be explained, because I spend a lot of time then going to the ABC thing and doing my own drop down, going, oh yeah, they do this.
right.
But they kinda do that. It's difficult for us to even sell it, because
Yeah.
we don't understand all of them. Like some of them, I'm thinking, do they even still need to be around?
Right.
Well, there is some, it's like, well, who invented this and are we still using it? So, anyway, just a minute.
This sounds like a small fix to me. There's probably someone on a city comms team who's gonna be like, this is not a small fix. But even right now, you go to one page, you see the drop down of like, who's the liaison, who's on it, and you go to a different page, see the TGov recording, and you go to a different page for
Yes.
meetings and agendas.
Presentation is also evident when you actually go through the NCI data and you do a comparison of neighborhoods and where they score. And that pretty much tells a pretty thorough story about economics as well as diversity, as well as how many in a particular district has the ability and the time resources necessary to give to boards and commissions. Counselor Archie?
Yes, maybe to tag off of what Councilor Bush is saying, well, number one, I'd be more than happy to have you all at a town hall meeting to share about authorities, boards, and commissions. When you do go to that drop-down menu, and I'm trying to just remember like the last time that I did it, maybe I think to myself, some of these seem like they're already filled, and then some are, maybe there's a vacant position, or I would just want clarity on like, what, of all of the universe of ABCs, which ones are there openings in the next 3 months? Which ones will be openings? Because it seems like people serve terms on them. And so someone may want to serve right now, but we look and we say, well, there won't be an opening for, however long. So, I don't know, a way to make that clearer, but a lookbook would be good, but, yeah, those are just my thoughts. It's just, it's not a lot of friction, because I've sent people to that page, and maybe you just get lost in the sauce, and, don't come
And
back.
then there's probably some education around the process as well. I think about the Asian Affairs Commission. For a long time, we did not have any seats open. In the last month, we have 3 seats open, and it kind of just happened. And there's some discomfort around this idea of like, oh, I'm sitting in a pile of papers on the mayor's desk. I'm never gonna get picked. But it is at times a waiting game of term changes. And there's some commissions, like the Women's Commission, that there's literally a waiting list. And that's a good problem. We want more education around what that process looks like. And I also think committee involvement is pretty meaningful and has a more flexible time commitment, and often evening time commitments that aren't accessible for a regular commission meeting for a lot of the ABCs. So I think that's an area where we can further expand what people expect about involvement and how accessible it is.
So you said committee involvement, by that, you don't mean this committee, you mean the actual.
Sorry, yes, I mean like a committee within an existing commission. So Title V commissions I'll speak for, because there's a whole jungle out there of other ABCs, but non-appointed commissioners can be members of working committees on each commission. So we get a lot of involvement from citizens in that way.
Why is there a waiting list for the Women's Commission, meaning, what are they doing that's so great that could
Because
pass?
they're women.
It's the vibes, yeah.
I won't take that away.
Don't want to, really? No
I
testosterone.
think they,
You get a lot of.
I have theories about that, but I don't know if you guys have a hard, like,
Yeah,
qualitative.
can we,
I could speak to why that one gets so many applicants.
well, I think all the women at the table could.
No, I mean, but genuinely, that commission one, the concept of what it is or does, even the, the name, and same with some of the Title V ones, makes it more clear. They do some very outward-facing external reporting, as well as events, like with the, Pinnacle Awards, like there's just some really concrete, tangible things that makes it like such a known entity. And you have other commissions that operate, some Title V ones do some similar things, but then you have completely different commissions or authorities that there's no reason they would ever operate that way, or what they do is much more niche, and so you can see how that kind of takes shape, I think.
I
But
would
yeah,
also offer the Asian Affairs Commission has 4% of the city to recruit from, and the Women's Commission has 50%.
Yeah.
So
Right.
large pool as
Yeah.
well.
yeah,
Alrighty.
also that, yes.
Okay, Counselor Bellis, you have a.
Yeah, this was just
Sorry,
as-
you can't apply.
this was just as kind of one other note
Unless you
relative to
identify.
making commission service access more accessible, et cetera. I also think like sometimes it's, even once I got on a commission myself, like until you actually go and look at what the charter actually says that the commission does, you may or may not realize, like, even people, I've seen this happen for people that are long-standing on commissions too, like what it really says or what the power is there. Like, right, the Human Rights Commission actually has this whole investigative power that's literally never been used, right? And that's sitting in the charter and it's never been touched related to if someone's been discriminated against in accessing a city contract. It's like this whole niche thing. I think there's also this interesting layer of, per Ural's point, from the time you're doing recruitment to make it accessible for someone to know just the broad strokes of information and see if they are interested and it's a good fit, but then to them actually entering on, getting a real, more in-depth understanding of what that commission's able to do, paired with how to navigate like Robert's Rules of Order. There's just like, those are all these layers of accessibility topics that I think come up, or can, if someone gets glimpses of them early, can make them feel like, I don't know if I can serve on that commission, or I don't know if I know enough, or, so I'm just trying to think of how you give people enough of that information up front so they're not discovering it later. I don't know, it just gets a little tricky, especially for commissions that do have some of those more authoritative powers that it could be used. Alrighty.
Any further comments, questions? I certainly appreciate the time that you guys waited to bring this to the table, and I'm so grateful for the commission and everything that you guys
Thank you
do.
all. let
Thank
Lexi
you.
know or us
Thank
know
you.
if we can come support or help recruit someone to come support.
Absolutely.
And same,
Thank you.
you know,
Thank
you
you.
let us know where we as a council can also help.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, moving on to agenda item 9, we are adjourned.
Cloudy water until it's restored. Lastly, while contractors work